So, as most of you probably know, some time back I bought Skylanders Superchargers for the Xbox One, along with a couple vehicles for me to use. And when it comes to this game in particular, I'm pretty sure that it has the biggest digital war ground when it comes to all of the Skylanders games in this franchise. Well, unless we add Spyro's Adventures because of obvious reasons. For the first 4 games, most of the community can agree that they're all pretty damn good, but when it comes to Superchargers and to some extent Imaginators, they both left the community pretty torn on how good or bad they actually were. On one hand, it was not only visually stunning unlike any other Skylanders game before it, and it's regarded for having one of the best stories in the franchise, but on the other hand, it did a lot of annoying things, made the whole decline of the franchise worse than it already was by making its gimmick a requirement to progress within the game, and the gimmick made it look like the Skylanders didn't have a clear direction anymore. Even though I'm probably not even halfway through Superchargers yet, I still have a lot of things that I want to say about this game, and there's just a lot of things going on, so that's exactly what we're going to do today. But before we get going, I just want to say that I have experienced everything up to infiltrating the prison where Eon is being held, and that one area where you get to see Softpaw again. I also wasn't able to play the races for air and water vehicles, along with the character-specific challenges except for Spitfires, for obvious reasons, but I was able to play a land race. But with all that said and done, I think that it's about time that we get started. Now, before we get into the meat and potatoes of everything, the first thing I want to talk about is the main gameplay and levels separated from all the vehicle sections. So let's get going. When it comes to this game and its levels, they are absolutely gorgeous. And when it comes to normal sections of this game, i.e. gameplay that doesn't require a vehicle, it's pretty much what you'd expect, but a little better. So far, the enemies feel challenging, but not to the point where I feel like they were able to hit me in an unfair way. And the supercharged Skylanders I was able to play as feel really good to play with. And to an extent, other Skylanders like Washbuckler and Starstrike are really easy to play as in this game. The levels also look visually stunning as well, and I think that it might be the best a Skylanders game has ever looked in my opinion, but you do have to take that with a bit of salt since I haven't played Imaginators yet. One of the highlight areas for me is the Cloud Kingdom, as its people, architecture, and heck, even the clouds themselves are just a treat to look at, and I sometimes get distracted by it at points. Another location I remember fondly is the Cloud Breather Temple, as the atmosphere is just so damn immersive, along with this game's music because holy god, these go hard. I never felt once that the music was off or shouldn't be playing at a specific moment. It was even better that a lot of the music was original too. You could usually tell when a track is being recycled in a Skylanders game or is just being remixed, and even though there was some original songs made, this is the game where I noticed that most, if not all of the songs were original, but there are some complaints I have with the gameplay. Firstly, and once again, a Skylanders game has somehow figured out how to screw up the elemental gates. Not because they have some nonsense attached to them like the Traptanium gates, but the fact that they just aren't even here, or here in the way that they're supposed to be. There are these just weird supercharged portal things that I was able to find hanging around in a few levels, but they don't require a specific element, just a supercharger, so they feel pretty unspecial all things considered. And that's for good reason, because these apparently aren't even the gates. Yeah, according to my research, the gates are apparently attached to vehicles and are these things, and it has to match the vehicle's element, not the Skylanders. That's right everyone, what I said earlier was wrong because alongside Trap Team, there's some horse crap tied to the elemental gates to screw them over. But I'll talk about that later because oh boy, there is a lot. Another thing I want to bring up is how ungodly long these levels are compared to others in the franchise. When it comes to the previous 2 games, i.e. SWAT Force and Trap Team, the longest I've ever had to play a single level was like 40 minutes, and that was because I was trying to find everything in Motleyville, which I wasn't able to do. But in this game, most of the levels I played so far have lasted hours. Technically, the parts of the levels are split into chapters, which saves your progress, but the levels still feel very long and drawn out because of that. I found myself leaving mid-level far more than I ever did with the other games, but that just might be because I was playing the Gears of War trilogy at the time and that game had me in a vice grip, I'll tell you what. Small tangent here, but if you're a fan of shooters and have the time and Game Pass, go play the Gears games, but wait until you're a teenager with Gears 2 because that game is just... Jesus Christ, that game hates every living being that resides within it, and it shows. A lot. Anyways, getting back on track, the last thing I want to discuss is the Academy, because oh my goodness, the Academy is absolutely spectacular in this game from all the parts that I've been able to see. The Academy is just so full of energy and life, and there's just so much you can do. There's character-specific challenges, which involve their vehicles, but hey, you win some, you lose some. There's a whole racing side mode for every vehicle type that you can play with friends. You can get upgrades for your Skylanders and even their vehicle, and even the Greebles come back in the form of this torture chamber that acts as the spawner for training Greebles. There's also vehicle-specific areas at the Academy that you can drive, fly, or swim around in, and you can place the legendary items wherever you want to as well, which you can get pretty creative with. But with all of that said and done, I think that it's about time that we get into the vehicles themselves. Now, when it comes to the vehicles, they're split into 3 categories: sea, land, and air, and all of them have race-like areas, free roam type gameplay, and usually something else accompanying it like the sea vehicle's 2D driving areas, which are surprisingly fun, at least to me. Alongside the gates, they feel like the most mixed bag when it comes to everything in this game, as it creates some of the best moments in the game, but they are also rife with nonsense that affects most of the game as well, and this can be most seen in the land vehicles. Now, the land vehicle is a necessity when you're playing this game, and that's the biggest problem with them. They are forced into every nook and cranny of this damn thing. They aren't optional like the others, and this wouldn't be a problem if its free roam areas were not mediocre. The race-like sections of the land vehicles are completely fine, but when it comes to the free roam areas, they are just lackluster in my eyes. The biggest problem I really have with the land sections is that they are required to get through the level, and I think that has to be the biggest problem with the second trilogy of Skylanders games. If you want to experience the gimmick and in turn, the game to its fullest, you have to buy so much extra stuff outside of the Skylander that most people will have to start selling organs to 100% the game.
We took one of your kidneys. That's okay, you only need one.
I know that most of this started from the swap zones in Skylanders Swap Force, but at least there it was a sort of side mode that you just needed 8 swappers for. And this game is especially egregious because you need both land and air vehicles, mainly land, to progress. And what's worse is that there's so many driving areas to the point that normal gameplay can't really get going on its own in my opinion. The only vehicle that doesn't have a drawback for me are the air vehicles because it feels like a simpler version of the Battlefront space battles, and for the most part it's really good, especially considering the fact that they control really well. The objectives are good, and there's never been a part where it's felt like a slog in my eyes, even with that one gate. Speaking of which, now that we have the time, let's talk about the elemental gates because they aren't actually elemental gates. They're vehicle challenges on top of the already existing Skylanders side missions. But that doesn't mean I hate the vehicles because even though many of these sections feel familiar, I still really enjoy most of them. The vehicles themselves are probably the biggest highlight too, as you can unlock different pieces of the vehicle to make it your own. And what's crazy about the vehicles is how freaking detailed they actually are. Alongside the basic attack and armor stats you can upgrade with gears, which are the vehicle's versions of gold, you can change different aspects of your vehicle to modify its acceleration, max speed, control, and all sorts of other things. Some of these visually change your vehicle as well, so it adds another level of customization in my opinion and makes your toy feel a bit more special. But to wrap things up, my experience with Skylanders Superchargers so far has been really good, and even though I've been complaining for the past few minutes, the issues aren't anything game-breaking, just annoying headaches that you have to push through. Even though I haven't seen much of the story play out in the game itself, it's become not only one of the most unique takes on the franchise I have ever seen, but it's also slowly becoming one of my personal favorites with the portrayal of characters, return of some we haven't seen in some time, and other smaller things I'll probably talk about if I ever make a big review on this game. But for now, I want to thank you all for watching. Like always, hit the subscribe button if you enjoy content like this, share this around so it grows the channel, leave some comments down below to make the algorithm happy, check out Return to Skylands along with the official Discord, my other lore videos, and the music used in this video, and I will see you all in the next one.